this Ibiza of Mexico literally deserves jail time and ticket to Ibiza because
Wait, what comes first? I hate to be the one to tell you this, but Instagram Live.
We spent 3 months in Tulum, and it's really not what we expected it to be. I'm not saying you can't have any fun here, but we'll get to that later.
If you're dead set on coming here, there's some things you need to know. Let's start fun with some scams. Let's talk about taxis.
Oh boy. First thing you guys should know, there is no Uber in Tulum. You won't be able to get like a cheap transportations, and taxis really want to profit off of that. They upcharge so much, it's crazy. For like 5-minute ride, you're gonna get charged $20, $30.
How much for to go to Zulik?
Actually,
Yeah,
peso to US.
pesos.
So 600.
600. Save 600.
If you want to go from like hotel zone to the city, some people were even quoted $50, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, if you're there for a day or two, it might not matter. Here's 50 bucks, but that's one way, and then you gotta go back, so that's $100 that you just spent. And then, if you're thinking about being here for like a whole week, that's gonna be every single day, every time you go leave the house. So if you don't know this already, you can't use Uber in Tulum because there's somewhat of a taxi mafia. Uber drivers that have tried end up getting like beat up by taxi drivers. They run the whole place. There's no other option, and they know that there's no other option, and so they hike up the price as high as they can.
You can get around with like a scooter or a bike, and you can take colectivos, which we did all the time around Tulum. Another thing you need to know about is gringo tax. Gringo tax, okay? Basically what it means is if you're a foreigner and you don't speak Spanish, expect to pay double, triple, or even more. So many places don't have prices put on their spot. I remember we were buying chips and they didn't have prices at just like a little booth. And I'm like, hey, how much are the chips? He said 40 pesos, okay? And the guy swapped for some reason. So I asked the new guy, I'm like, hey, how much are the chips? Oh, they're 50 pesos. I'm like, oh really? Because the other guy said 40. And he's like, can be 40. And what really sucks about it is that you really can't do anything because one, you don't speak Spanish. If you do, that's definitely a plus. And you're not really sure because the prices aren't posted. They just gonna rip you off because that's what they like to do here. They just like see you don't know, they're gonna take extra pesos from you. It doesn't really make my time here pleasant because I know that that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
Which it's not about the money, it's about the like constant feeling like you're getting ripped off somewhere.
One of the first scams that I saw when I was here was the money switch scam, where you try to pay for something and then they switch the bills on you. Say if it's 80, hand them like a 200 peso bill and they'll give you 20 back. But you gave them 200, so you should get 120 back. And then they're like, no, you gave me 100. Like everybody here saw 100 pesos. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I gave you 200. They just pocketed 100 and they're trying to give you 20 back. One thing that I do now is every time I give somebody money, I'm like, here is 200. We're both seeing that this is 200. You know that I know that this is 200. Yeah. Now give me change for 200.
We've been burned so many times that it just makes it like you can't even be a pleasant person back because you've been burned so many times, and it just doesn't make it like a nice experience, which really sucks because that's not how I am and that's not how things go, but be prepared.
Okay, my favorite scam is the one where you're renting a car. Of course you want to rent a car, you need to get around when you get here. Well, the car rentals have tires, and they make a good job at like when you get the car, the first thing they show you, hey, there's a tire. They open up the trunk.
Yeah.
Spare trunk in the spare tire in the trunk.
Spare trunk and a tire.
Yeah. Okay, the car's good. You drive out somewhere and then you go to return the car and then surprise, what's missing? That there's no tire. You're like, I didn't even touch the tire, and they'll be like, oh, well, somebody must have stole it. It's gonna cost you some money, and that's money that you weren't expecting to spend.
So here is the reason why this scam is happening actually. When you rent a car in Tulum or Mexico, you need to buy insurance. We bought at least full insurance, but the insurance covers everything, damage, all the stuff, but the tires. How convenient. What happens is they rent you a car, they come steal your tire from you, you return your car, and there is no tire. Oh, oops, now you gotta pay some extra money. So here's what we did.
I walked through the apartment carrying a spare tire, put it in my closet, and like it's next to my clothes. And you know, every time I'd pick up my wardrobe, I'd like slide like the green shirt, the red shirt, slide the tire.
But Tyre was with us at all times. And I don't know, first thing he did too when we returned the car, he's like, is the tire?
Check the tire.
And I tell you, he did take a second for him to process.
It's still there?
How is it there?
Why is it still there? I'll never know if they were gonna steal that tire.
Here is actually the company we rented with, and they were really great, so you can use them. All right, another scam is tipping. And don't get me wrong, we really don't mind tipping, but in Tulum, not only a lot of places are gonna have tip included in the bill, but often they bring you, like, if you're gonna pay with the card, they bring you this machine. And usually what you should do is, I don't wanna tip, or I wanna tip 10, 15, 20%. No, none of that. They're gonna select 20 for you, press next. All you gotta do is just sign. Just sign there, that's it, you're good to go.
I want to tip. However, the tip should be my choice.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like, I'm choosing it for you. It's no longer a tip.
Okay, another thing you definitely need to know is fake ATMs. Make sure to use the reputable bank or inside like a grocery store, like big grocery store, because there is a lot of ATMs that can be just in like side of the street. Don't use those. It can like suck in your card, and I'm not saying that will happen every time, but it might happen, and you definitely want to avoid that. So another scam you have to be aware of is gas pump scam.
The way it is they pump it for you. So you'll just sit in your car or you stay on your bike, and the first thing that they should do is zero out the pump before them. Well, sometimes they don't always do that. It's more of a manual system, so there's not like automatic things. So they're eyeballing it and they're counting like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and stop. If you're not checking, they might just start pumping your gas from whatever the person ahead of you had as their tab. So a car comes in, it costs them 400 pesos. They start at 400 pesos and then they just keep going, like fill it up, whatever it's gonna be. And then, so that 400 turns into 500, 600. If you're renting a car and it's your first time filling up, you might pay like 800 pesos when you should have paid 400 pesos.
Yeah.
That 400 pesos is going straight to them. And if you try to use a card, all of a sudden the card system is broken. And even though they all have card readers, you could see their card readers. They're like, no internet.
Yeah. Okay, another really big thing, and it's a huge thing in Tulum, is the police.
So I think what could end up being one of the most expensive scams is the police, and they are out to get all of your money.
When driving around, whether it's a bike, whether it's a scooter or a car, they know you're a tourist. And they gonna most likely pull you over. We've been here for 3 months and been pulled over like 6 times already.
They'll go through all of your stuff. They'll rummage through everything that you have. I've had like them surround me and everybody is like on a different thing. Someone is on my phone, like opening the case and in my pockets while somebody else is in the scooter and someone else is in my wallet, and it's chaotic and uncomfortable. And the last thing you wanna do is have things get worse. They know this, and a lot of times they'll be like, well, it could all end right now for just the low price of $500.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh gosh, especially if they find money, they're like, just hand it over right now and this is all.
Well, sometimes they just take your money.
Or they take your money.
Like
it's not even a negotiation.
Yeah, if they like go through your purse or whatever, like it's just gone.
Luckily for you, they can't do a full body check, you know? So if you have your money in your bra or, you know, in unspeakable places, they will never find out, hopefully.
What are those unspeakable places?
You know, underneath your feet.
First off, you gotta be cool. You cannot be like, what? I didn't do nothing. Like, you cannot have the attitude, you gotta be cool. We always been cool and they were cool back.
So what I'd recommend is just be super cool with them, and we haven't had any problems because of that. Another cool one is the ruin scam. Of course, you want to see some history when you're here. So when you're driving, right before you get to the entrance, there'll be people that with flags. They're like, you know, they're like waving you down and they're like getting your attention. They look super official, like they're, you know, people that you need to listen to.
There's people who will literally jump in front of your scooter or a car. They're like, no, you cannot pass. A lot of people who don't know, they're gonna stop and go, and what they do is that they either want to offer you their parking, or they want to offer you some tours, or often they also try to sell you tickets to the ruins that are not legitimate ones. Just pass them.
What if they have like hats and they go ruins and they have a picture of the
No,
ruins?
you pass them.
What if they have vests that have like reflective stripes and stuff and they're like bright pink?
No, you pass them.
What if they run in front?
No, you pass them.
What about a flag?
If they have a red flag, it's a red flag for you. Ignore and go. So you see there's like a booth on the right, official person in a uniform, you pay at the like booth.
If you're carrying anything other than an iPhone, expect to pay a fee that is magically not anywhere on the menu.
We got so scammed with this.
We had an action camera that was like strapped to my chest.
Something important.
Yes, what's that?
Turn off the camera and I'm gonna explain to you.
Okay.
Something.
And they say that you have to pay for the rights to your footage.
He went a little further and said that this ticket that we're gonna purchase here at the ruins for this camera is gonna be valid everywhere. And that was our like second day here,
All
okay?
Cenotes.
Yeah, anywhere we go. And I'm like, oh, can I get it on the camera that you say that? No, I would prefer not to because XYZ reasons. Okay, I see what just happened. I'm like, okay. If they stop you on the site for some reason, then you can like maybe reconsider or talk to them, but most of the time they're just trying to get extra money off of you.
Once you get onto the property for the ruins, there are freelance tour guides that will stand around collecting people for tours. They're not hired by the ruin site, they're just people who got on that day. These people charge $50 for a guided tour, and it's less than that to get there. If you're a history buff, maybe $50 might not be a big deal, but at each one of the sites, they have a plaque that shows like the history of what happened in this area and what this was used for. They just go over and be like, this place is where the king lived.
All right, let's talk about money. 100 pesos is around $6 right now. Tulum is gonna suck out a lot of your money. Like everywhere you go is just, I'll just grab that $100 and that $100. People said that before we came here, and I was like, oh, it's still Mexico. No, prices are USA. To be honest, you're gonna have cheaper vacation if you go in the US. Let's explain how things work. There is a hotel zone and there is main town, Tulum. So the hotel zone is like the most expensive part of the town, and everything there is basically like a resort. There's mainly tourists there, and that's where the prices are gonna be the highest. If you go to the city, they're still high, but much lower than the hotel zone. In the hotel zone, what we paid like $12 for 2 tacos. In the hotel zone, there is a bunch of day clubs, restaurants, all these things. You need to pay to get in. And a lot of these day clubs, you can't just walk in and then you pay for a bed or pay for a meal or whatever. No, they have a fee for you to enter, which depends on the place, $50, goes as high as $120 per person just to get in. You get in, but you also have minimum spend. So 500, 700 pesos, which is around $70 per person minimum spend. Sometimes these places do have an option where you, let's say, pay $150, but that includes $70 for food. $70 is your entry. So that $70 you can spend for food or whatever.
There's like 100 resorts on the beach, and some of them are huge, some of them are small. You don't know this ahead of time. You don't know what it looks like ahead of time unless you went and Googled every single one. So you're going up to this place that is like a gate, and someone's like, hey, surprise, $80 per person, pay now to get inside. You pay, and it's either really cool or it's really lame. If you end up hating it, that's $80 that's gone.
We cannot like go in and even see the place if we wanna come and spend the money here. You need to pay. You have to pay first.
I've figured out why Hotel Zone is so expensive, or anything in Tulum is so expensive. Tulum has a window. Peak season starts around December and it goes until May. That is their only opportunity to make their money, which means any other time in the year, they're completely empty. With that, they're like, we have this small window of opportunity to make our money. Let's make our prices so high, and that way we could ride it out the rest of the year.
Right, but the problem is people keep talking about it and less people is coming because of that.
And the fact that fewer and fewer people are coming means they have to charge each person more money to make up for the money that isn't showing up there, which is making each person want to go less and less. So it's like, how does it end? For food, expect to spend 200 to 400 pesos for a restaurant.
In Hotel Zone, it's more expensive, so I would say like 500 to plus for a meal. Bring credit card and bring debit card, and you always want to have some extra debit card in case the ATM swallows one of your cards. You have a spare. Yes, you can use a credit card. Most of places accept credit cards. Some don't, so you still need to have cash. Is it easy to use credit card in Tulum? It's easy, but some places do have like surcharge of 5%, so you might expect that even in restaurants, they're gonna upcharge you 5% for just using the credit cards. In short, be ready to bring a lot of money to Tulum. And if you had a budget for Tulum, I would say double it, easy.
Let's talk about some health and safety. As far as safety is concerned, I did feel safe.
Yeah, I didn't feel unsafe.
I know there's 2 cartels in town. They do tend to hash it out. A lot of stories where people have gotten shot at clubs or just out at random. But to be honest, I did not have any problems. I didn't even notice any altercations. Nobody's been like, hey, what, you walking this way? Or like, you know, whatever, however altercations go.
So we did hear a lot about Tulum being not safe before we came here. And even from people who spend some time here, that it's not safe, there is cartels, there is shootings. I'm not saying that's not a thing, but at no point really did I feel like, oh gosh, it's so sketchy.
It's like, we need to get out of this area.
Okay.
I've never felt like that.
Yeah, so for safety, I would say it's really safe. Keep your drug usage out of Tulum.
Yeah.
Don't bring drugs, don't buy drugs in Tulum, don't do drugs. There was stories where like someone took out like a little buggy which wasn't drugs, and the cartel took him to like the bathroom, and people like had gun to his head, and that's just things I heard. I would just keep it out of here because these 2 cartels kind of are fighting over who's gonna sell drugs where or who's gonna do what where, so you don't want to be part of it. If you go and in the Hotel Zone, you're gonna notice a lot of places, wherever you go, there is always a guy or a girl, they're trying to sell you something. Just, you know, kindly decline, no thank you, and be on your way, okay?
So another thing, if you're walking or you're cycling at night, specifically at night, I would recommend having a light. Could be your cell phone, could be a little flashy thing that you put on your back or you have in front of you. These streets are not lit. Not all the streets are lit. Some of them are, not all of them are. And not everybody's sober. Nighttime plus not sober people plus not night lights can equal some bad situations. So if you aren't like illuminating yourself, and if you're not visible to people on the road,
this can just end bad.
Yeah, it's a 1 lane this way, 1 lane that way, and then jungle on both sides.
So another thing is definitely don't drink tap water. If you don't believe me,
So if you're ever thirsty,
this is where our water comes from in our Airbnb.
That's your water that goes to all the houses.
refreshing.
You don't really want to drink it, do you? And if you do, still just don't. We used like the bottled water to cook, like if you want to boil pasta or stuff like this. So all that we use just bottled water, it's not expensive. Ice, if you want to use ice in restaurants or anywhere, I would say it's really safe because they buy bags of ice that are safe. Unless you go to like a little sketchy part of town, I would skip ice then. But if you're going to like a normal restaurant or anywhere in town, like that's, you know, people go to, it's totally safe.
All right, one of the less fortunate things about health in Tulum or this area in general is the way that these Some of these places are built, it'll collect mold really easily. Like over the years, that mold accumulates and accumulates.
A lot of places here sit empty for a long amount of time. And they grow the mold. There's water getting in through like the windows.
They're not completely sealed, so like a lot of the water comes here. And
it's molding, it's humid, so the environment just makes it that way.
I developed like adult asthma. I wasn't able to sleep for the first 2 weeks. I felt like I was trying to breathe through one of those like little stir straws.
Yeah.
I felt like my lungs had closed up to that small.
You were like choking, you could not breathe, and it was terrible. I was like, we're gonna have to leave.
Now I have an inhaler that just in case I can't breathe. I've never had an inhaler ever in my life.
Listen to me very closely right now. Another really important thing is using bug spray. You can be like me before I came here, like, yeah, whatever, mosquitoes, like, what is it gonna do? Like, bite me, like, oh, what is it gonna do? Itch?
They have this thing called dengue, AKA the bone-breaking disease. Here's how it works. An infected mosquito bites you. A couple days later, we're out walking around. All of a sudden, you're feeling hot.
No, I was just feeling weak. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I'm just not alive today. My back was hurting so much.
We ended up getting home, and in the span of 4 hours, Maya went from walking out around in a different town to bedridden. We had to cover her up with blankets. She was crying every couple minutes from like the pain that was happening. You're crying and shaking and cold sweats,
headache,
hot chills.
Yeah.
Headache. Your muscles were spasming.
Yeah.
Maya's a tough girl. She can like last through anything. When she was crying every couple minutes, I was like, something different's happening. All these doctors on Google were like getting horrible reviews. Luckily, we found Dr. House Call, and they actually came to the apartment, did some tests. Dr. House Call was a godsend.
All I remember is it was just terrible. It was terrible 2 weeks of my life. So dengue is serious. It's not a joke. And now I spray myself with full-on mosquito spray. The worst part is if you get it again, you can end up in hospital. And there's no vaccine. So
I can already tell you're super excited to come here. So when you get here, there's a couple options for how to get from the airport to Tulum.
First option is take a taxi. Just don't do it. You're gonna pay much more than you should. Another option is to book a transportation beforehand. If you text us on Instagram, I can give you all the information. I can send you number to the guy we used. We paid $90. They had no problem with transporting the dog, and they had like a big bus. So $90 if you're coming with like a family, that's a good deal. Another way of getting to Tulum would be taking Ado bus, which if we didn't come with our dog would be what we would do because they cost around $16 just to get to Tulum. That's really cheap and affordable option, but if there is like more than 2 people, it's slowly gonna stop making sense. You can buy the ticket beforehand or you can buy it after you arrive.
You could also hop on the mine train, which is a great way to get around the entire area. And you can fly directly into Tulum with airport code TQO.
And the last way of getting to Tulum is you can rent a car beforehand or at the airport and drive yourself to Tulum.
The way to Tulum is super simple. It's just one road that takes you all the way there from Cancun. It's one road. There's no turns. You don't have to catch an interstate or anything. It's a straight line. One of the reasons why I wouldn't really recommend a car is it's kind of overkill. You have a car and you're going a short distance, but since the roads aren't really huge here, there's not a lot of ways to go around, like to detour. And once you get to hotel zone, you're gonna pay a premium cost for parking.
Third price to pay for a car would be 200 pesos and 50 pesos for a scooter. Anything above that, you can find cheaper parking. If they tell you like 100, 300, 500, just keep on going. There's so many parking spots. So we just found pretty cheap parking in the hotel zone, and it's right by the Mulata, and it's 50 pesos per scooter. So looks like we could have been saving all along. If you don't have a big group of people, I would highly recommend you rent a scooter, or if you want to save even more, a bike. But I honestly, personally, I wouldn't recommend riding a bike from hotel zone to the city. That's a whole ride unless you enjoy that kind of things. It's a lot. It's gonna take a lot, and it's heat and it's humid and it's just gonna take a lot of your energy. So I would highly recommend renting a scooter.
I like the scooters because you can go around traffic at red lights. So instead of waiting behind like 30 cars, you could just scoot and then just go straight to the very front of the line.
Yeah, so renting a scooter is definitely a way to go in Tulum, unless you're staying in the hotel zone only, then you can walk or just have a bike. Another way to get around Tulum is colectivo, and not a lot of people talk about this way of getting around Tulum. I personally love it. It's so much fun, and I don't know why not a lot of people use it, but it's really cheap and easy way to like get around if you wanna go to some cenotes, or if you want to go to Playa del Carmen, or all these places you can get with colectivo, and you don't need to worry about anything else. So here's how you take colectivo. You see that little white bus, all right? And you go to them and you're like, I'm going to Playa del Carmen. So they're gonna be like, yeah, come on in. And they're very nice, and they're gonna tell you this to Playa del Carmen, you gotta go there, and they're gonna take you. I never felt like lost.
Collectivos will have a slip of paper in the front window, and it'll say if it's going like north, and it'll say like where its like final destination is. So that way, if you know kind of what general area, if you're going north, if you're going south, you'll know which collectivo is gonna be on your route.
After you establish that this collectivo is heading where you wanna go, you walk in. Usually you pay first, not here. Here you get in, take your seat. Do they stop where I wanna go, or do I like yell? What do I do? Like, how do I make them to stop? You see you're approaching wherever cenote you wanna go to, or the city, and you're like, Playa del Carmen, por favor, and they gonna stop. And that's when you pay. So just to like give you an idea of the prices, to Dos Ojos cenote it would cost us 35 pesos, and to Playa del Carmen is 50 pesos. So that's like, if you look at the map, Playa del Carmen is so much farther, so that's 50 pesos. I remember though, if you're not anywhere near collectivos, and let's say you're in the middle of the street of the highway coming back from the cenote, you're just gotta be like wave at them, and there's not always a bus stop. You just gotta kind of wave them down, and they take you back to the city.
The collectivos from pretty much everywhere we've gone, they run about at like 10 minutes tops maybe.
Here is a little hack collectivo drivers told us. When you're on the hotel zone, it's full of taxis, and they say they can't pick you up if there's any taxi in sight. So if you want to take collectivo from the hotel zone to like town, you gotta make sure there is no taxis in sight. Then you can stop the collectivo, and usually they're like 25 to 45 pesos. Significantly cheaper than going and taking a taxi.
So if you're looking to get a scooter, there are scooter places everywhere in town. You don't have to go far to find one. But the one we went with was with a guy named Isaac, who was super cool. We had a great time hanging with him and stuff. He's a great guy, and he has a scooter shop, and now he has another scooter shop. He's growing very quickly. He's got the Vespas, he's got ATVs, he's got the sports scooters. I would go with that one. Message us and we'll give you his contact info, and that way you can get hooked up, get yourself a nice bike, and he's got good prices, so you don't have to break the bank. Now, I know everybody's gonna want to get the Vespa. That one looks the coolest.
Cute.
Like they look cool. They come in some cool colors. They have like nice design. The problem with those though are they're not great for this area. There's a lot of potholes, a lot of like uneven grounds that are here. Also a lot of bumps. The Vespas don't really handle very well.
You really don't.
Skip the Vespas unless you just want to get a couple cute Instagram pictures. The ATVs are cool for all-terrain stuff. However, ironically, they're not great at going in a straight line. Anytime you turn, you feel like you're about to tip over. Your best bet is easily the sports one. It's best all around. For the off-roading stuff, it's fast enough to, go fast if you need to, and it's comfy to drive, so.
And always, always, always wear your helmet, because that's a law and that's a really good reason for the police to stop you. I would highly recommend you don't take taxis. There is no Uber, and taxis are extremely overpriced. Moving on, let's talk about food and drinks. And I know you're like, oh, show me the tacos. And there's a lot of amazing food in Tulum and a lot of tacos, and you're probably gonna be so tired of them after a while.
Tired of tacos?
If you wanna do some cooking on your own, there is big grocery store, and it's basically like a Walmart. Quality-wise, I would say that's the main grocery store. There is another one that's more local, more like Mexican feeling type of supermarket. So there's basically two big supermarkets, and the main one, which name we can still not pronounce, is pretty cool, but you have to pay for parking there. But if you're riding a scooter, you actually get it for free. Only cars and like ATVs have to pay for parking. There is a gym there, so we know there is a jungle gym that's like a popular spot in Tulum where you get all this like jungle equipment, but it's $35 every time you go. So if you're staying for a little longer in Tulum, then that gym right next to the shopping center, first month for you was like $1, and then second month was $25. That's like for a month, instead of $35 for one entry to the gym.
If you like drinking, but you're a really bad planner and you get your drinks at the last minute, you will be in tears when you find out 10 p.m. is the latest you can get drinks. 10 p.m. So if it's like 11 o'clock and you're like, oh, I want a pre-party before the club. Oops, you can't buy any alcohol. And it gets even crazier because on Sundays, 4 p.m. You have to plan your drinking out like at noon. Keep in mind, this is only for the stores. The bars, you can buy drinks until the bars are closed.
Another thing that you might want to know if you like to use Google or Yelp and all these things to like research restaurants, if you're expecting the restaurant to be open when it says on Google that it is, you might just be a little surprised. Even though it does say on Google that the restaurant is open or the place is open, or even that the place exists on the map, it might not always be true, so just so you know.
Too many times that I can count where I was like, okay, perfect. Well, I just go to this place down the street and I'll grab your blah, blah, blahs. And then I go there, and not only do they not have blah, blah, blahs, the place isn't even there. It's just like a pile of dirt on the ground. And I'm like, this place was supposed to, it says it's here.
And one more thing for the food, there is a food delivery app, which I absolutely love. Not only you don't need to leave to get your food, just a few dollars more, so it's really convenient. It's called Tomato.
And when it comes to tacos, you're not gonna be disappointed. There's excellent taco shops everywhere. I like to use my nose. If you smell something, check it out. It's probably some really good carne asada.
That pepper's so spicy, I had my face in the fire to cool off.
So what can you actually do here? Here's some activities. You're lucky to be in one of the areas of the world where they have cenotes, which are these really cool underground water caves. They come in a bunch of different varieties. There's some that look like pools, there's some that look like caves, there's some that are just like cutouts in the geology. Whatever you are into, there's gonna be a cenote for you. We've got a video on them. It's awesome, you gotta check them out. They are rocky though, so make sure you have water shoes. We found our favorite ones. They're like washable. They look like actual shoes. They work like actual shoes, but you could take them in water and they're totally safe.
It's rocky, it's slippery, and if you want to go to explore, which I absolutely recommend, is you need water shoes. Like the requirement is water shoes. These tropic feel shoes are my absolutely favorite water shoes. Like I got one, you got one, and I think I'm gonna get one right now.
No, we're not sponsored. We just love them. They're really
You will sponsor me one day, Tropic Feel.
That sounds very threatening and aggressive.
I feel like there is not as much to do in Tulum, and also there is a lot to do in Tulum. You cannot go wrong with cenotes, but on the other hand, other activities, I feel like it's mainly like you can go salsa dancing on Tuesday, or you can go partying, or you can go to the beach or beach club. cabin. There is a lot of like yoga, spiritual ceremonies and all these spiritual things.
They have shaman. They'll take you on a spiritual journey.
You can even do ayahuasca ceremony in Tulum. A lot of like locals told us, you know, you kinda gotta be careful because of all the like hype that has been created. Now there's a lot of fake shamans and fake ceremonies just for, you know, tourists who come here and wanna do it. If you're like into those spiritual things, you want the real stuff. So you do need to do your research and kinda be careful who you're going with.
Random pro tip, if you're gonna buy souvenirs here, go like a half an hour outside of town to one of these little villages. They make these things that they sell in the shops right there, so you can get it fresh off the assembly line. It's brand new, it's still shiny.
In Tulum, they offered me one of these for 900 pesos. Here we went down from 250 to 200. So if you wanna do some shopping, they sell the same exact things right here for much cheaper. That's what you wanna get.
All right, we gotta talk about some infrastructure stuff.
We gotta talk.
I've never thought that infrastructure would be an important point to talk about.
And let me stop you. We saw people talk about it before we came here. And we're like, come on,
How
on.
bad can it
How
be?
bad can it be?
You guys are just extra, y'all are just being sensitive, like, oh, there's like a couple of like soda cans on the street.
Tulum has a huge waste problem.
This whole place is like piles of trash everywhere.
The only place they really try to clean up is the hotel zone, but anywhere outside of it, it's trash everywhere. But it's like really sad to see that like city doesn't really care enough to get people to clean it up, you know? And it's not just us being extra and like, oh, there is trash everywhere. Trust me, I don't really care that there is trash. It's how they live and that's fine. It's just what we're telling you, that's what it is. It's not like, ooh, Tulum. So let's talk about the beaches, because I know a lot of people is gonna be interested, like, is there seaweed? I need to know the seaweed situation. So for the 3 months that we've been here, from like September to December basically, I didn't really see a lot of seaweed and I didn't see it being a problem on the hotel zone. However, if you went to like locals beach, that's a little different story because they don't keep it as clean anymore. So sometimes it would have a lot of seaweed there, which was like crazy amount, but sometimes they clean it and then it looks a little better, but there is gonna be some seaweed there. Now, since we're talking about the beaches and like hotel zone, I feel like we should really mention access to the beach because that's something that I was wondering coming to Tulum.
Your options are the local beach. Okay, so you can go to the local beach, but that might not be the beach you want to hang out at. It's a small little stretch of like little beach.
If you do want to go to locals beach and you don't want to pay for parking on the hotel zone, by the locals beach there is free parking. So you just leave your car or a scooter right by the beach and you can go and hang out on this beach without paying for a parking.
But if you want to spend some more time like on the other sides of the beach, this part never made sense to me. The beaches are public, but we can't get to the beach. I'm like, how does this even make sense? Here's how it works. There's one street that goes parallel to the beach. Here's the beach, water, 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 and there's one street, okay? And then you're driving down this one street and you think all you do is you get out of the car and you go, and you're at the beach, the watery beach. No, that's not how it works. It's not like normal beaches. They paywall everything. In between you and that beach is a resort, and there's resorts all the way down. No gaps, no gaps. You can't go this way. This one ends. You can't take a little walkway. No. There's a little wall. There's like fences. The resorts, they can't stop you from going to the beach, but they can charge to get onto their beach resort. You always have to pay, unless you know the few that we know. Raw Love is one that we'd always go to. They don't charge anything to get onto their property. I'm sure there's others, but Raw Love worked out perfectly.
I also heard you can also cross through the La Zebra, but from our experience, it's Raw Love. You find the Raw Love on the map, you park, and you go straight and you say, I'm going to Raw Love, and you don't really have to go there. You just keep on going and you're on the beach.
It's always nice to be on your vacation, just sitting with the lights on. And then surprise, there's no more lights. So many times where we've been cooking or watching a show or something, and then the power goes out and there's nothing you can do. We got out one day and we're like, well, let's just go across to the other side of town. Everything is blacked out and you just gotta sit around and wait. I think the longest it's been out was like 9 hours.
Yeah. First month we've been here, it was daily. We either don't have power or we don't have water or both together. Like there was never a day where that wouldn't be a thing. Now lately it's been a little better. Where we are right now, this second, there is absolutely no cell service. So unless we have Wi-Fi, we have no connection to the world.
I have a theory or a hypothesis. They know they're in a jungle. They know that they aren't gonna have reliable power. So that's why they have a lot of these eco-friendly places that don't require power. And all they do is they're like, oh, they just offer you like, oh, this is a natural experience. Well, meanwhile, they're like, no, we just can't get the power to work. So we just call it a natural experience.
Fun fact about the eco-friendly hotels in Tulum, and I'm not saying that's all of them, I'm saying that's a lot of them. They call themselves eco-friendly, or they like don't really use electricity or whatever. A lot of them run on diesel generators.
Right.
You pass.
If you're walking on the street, you hear like,
you hear them, and then they market themselves as eco-friendly when in fact they're like destroying the environment. So if you really want to look into the eco-friendly type of travel, make a good research on hotels in Tulum because they're not really being honest with you a lot of the times. There's only one street that takes you to the hotel zone from each way. It's gonna be packed. So if you're taking a car or you're using a taxi, sometimes it might take you like an hour or even longer just to get wherever you're heading because the traffic is crazy.
there's not enough road to accommodate the amount of people that want to go there. So if you imagine one car that's at the front of the line wants to stop at this parking garage or ask how much it costs to go to this parking place, just them stopping to ask that question means every car behind them has to stop. And if there's a pothole on the way and like only one car can get around at a time because the puddle is gotten so big, then that has to stop.
And the traffic isn't bad all the time. It's not like, oh, traffic is unbearable.
Like LA traffic or something.
Yeah, it's not unbearable. Especially, I repeat, if you're on a scooter, you're gonna be fine. But if you're doing a car, you might sometimes be stuck in the traffic for a minute. Let's talk about how things are built here. And I'm actually very impressed because a lot of things here is built like it's DIY. It's like built by hands. The roads, the asphalt is being mixed while it's being put on, and like it's just very DIY. So I'm really impressed that there is so many places that are still standing.
So for DIY, this isn't really a lock. This is a hole that they cut out into the door, and then they just screwed like some type of things here to make a locking mechanism. This isn't even a real keyhole. This is just just drilled like this. And then they put some things in there. So that's what we mean by like DIY. It works. I mean, some of them work, not everyone works.
It's impressive because I understand they don't have a lot of the things that other countries or places do.
Oh, well, we need to get like 50 chairs. How are we gonna get 50 chairs on like a bicycle? And some guy figures it out.
Yep.
There are a ton of speed bumps, and these are not normal speed bumps.
Yeah.
They're extra high.
We did drive one time and we saw a guy just riding on ATV and he did not see the speed bump.
He's going full speed down the road as fast as he could on his ATV.
Yeah.
Hits one of the speed bumps right next to, as we're slowing down to go over it, he is speeding up to go over it, and he launches himself into the air, flips over, and the bike comes down upside down. As we saw it through the side window, it looked like he was doing a stunt, and I'm like, no, but he's not even slowing down for this. Like, he must know what he's doing. And then he launches and then it falls, and nothing is okay at that point.
Like everyone ran out to help him and check if everything's fine. I tried calling 911, but there was no cell service, so I couldn't do that. But it turns out that he was fine, and I hope if he ever sees it, please let us know that you were fine. A lot of the times you can't see them, and at night it's even worse because you can't see them during the day So imagine how can you see them during the night?
Roads are super dusty. If you have goggles, somehow wear them because your eyes will get super like sandpapered out. There's a lot of potholes everywhere. So that's another thing to be very cautious of.
And like I know a lot of people complain like, oh, there is so many potholes. I still don't see this as a problem. Maybe me being from Poland has something to do with that, but like they are huge. Some are huge and some are really impressive.
Let's talk about your accommodations.
Yes, there is a lot of options in Tulum, and you can either be in the hotel zone, in the expensive part of the town, or in the town you can rent Airbnb or any little other accommodations that you can find. There is a problem with how we talked about things being DIY. This DIY, even though it's impressive and cute, it comes with a lot of problems where you're gonna have mold, you're gonna have dust, you're gonna have dirt. So that's really something to like pay attention to.
I have no doubt that when each of these places was built, it was like a marvel. And you could look at them and be like, wow.
Yeah.
But a couple years have gone by and the materials that they use to make these are not holding up very well. In the Airbnbs, even in the nicer areas, all of it is molding and you could see it very visibly. All those fancy wood structures that you see on Instagram, you're like, wow, that's so cool. That is really deteriorating, rotting. They're not fixing it. They're not sealing it, so it's not preserved. You could maybe make it look cool in pictures, but when you're there, you could see like fungus growing on things, the rot and stuff that hasn't been taken care of. So those are your accommodations.
I would say if the place was just built, because there are places that are being built right now, that's gonna be your best bet if you're trying to like avoid mold and all these things. Now, is this safe? So let's say hotel zone, it's a hotel zone, it's a hotel, so you're gonna be safe. But are you safe in like the areas? We're in the neighborhood called La Valeta, and I do not feel unsafe, but all these like buildings that have Airbnbs, even apartment buildings, they all have security. So you do feel a little better. There's cameras, there's security, so you don't really have to worry about a lot. Another to think about like with accommodation, remember you're in the jungle, okay? There's gonna be mosquitoes, there's gonna be lizards, there's gonna be spiders.
There's gonna be tarantulas, there's gonna be scorpions.
And sometimes that's we didn't see, but we heard of people getting that in their backyards, snakes.
The tarantulas and the scorpions have been inside of our place.
Another thing is that you will need AC here. So if you're going for those like eco hotels that are cheaper and they often don't have AC, good luck. It's hot, it's humid and hot, and even now it's really, really warm. So I can't imagine being here without the AC. And the last thing for the accommodation, I would say that if you stay in the hotel zone, it's gonna be much more expensive than if you rent the Airbnb or any other accommodation in towns.
Hotel zone, if it's like 2, 3, 4 days.
Yeah,
Don't even consider an Airbnb at that point.
yeah.
You're gonna spend the most, but you're gonna get the most out of your trip and you're not gonna have to deal with any hassles.
It's easier to like be there and just be prepared to spend the money because you're gonna be spending the money regardless in Tulum. Let's talk about weather, and we're gonna tell you from our personal experience. When we came here in September, it was so hot, it was so humid. Oh my God, I did adjust after a few days, so it was better. I'm gonna talk about nights. When I go out at night, we went to like the bar outside, and you sit. You don't do anything that requires no activities. I feel like I just swam in a pool. I would sweat so much. It was so humid and hot. Half of the October, all of a sudden from hot to, in one day, came to like nice, finally. First 2 weeks of November, it was pouring rain. Every day. I felt so bad for anyone who like came here.
Oh yeah.
Because it was pouring.
Yeah.
Like,
Now it would rain normally, like intermittently rain, but Yeah, that was the worst. It was like just coming down, nothing you can do all day.
Definitely like end of November till April is gonna be the best weather, I would say. However, it's gonna be also the most expensive and most busy, packed with tourist time.
We're gonna get into the culture.
Tulum is very, very dog friendly. Okay, okay? Tulum is very dog friendly. I'm gonna keep two varies for different places. Most of the places you can bring your dog, not cenotes. There is two cenotes so far that we could bring our dog, the cenote vesica.
Dog friendly with like conditions.
But the Butha cenote, that's where you want to go with your dog. That's the best, absolutely best place to bring your dog.
Dog can swim,
run around. They bring him some water. Like, absolutely love the place if you're going with your dog. When it comes to restaurant, there's usually not a problem to bring your dog. You can take him to the beach. There is some doggy daycares and things to do. There is a vet that you can go to. So if you're thinking of bringing your dog, I don't see why that would be a problem. Now for the like culture, how Tulum became popular is by this like spiritual culture and like people who are like on their awakening path and all these things. And you can't really feel that here, to be honest, if you're just like a person coming from outside, unless you find your circle of people who are like into that, or you know the places where to go. The city doesn't give off that hippie like spiritual vibe like at all. So it feels like that culture was made up by the tourists, but we did ask some locals about it and they said no, it wasn't made up, it was a thing 10, 15 years ago where people in Tulum would do that, like ceremonies, and there was a lot of shamans and stuff like that, but all these people left because now Tulum became like a place to come and party, and like all these like spiritual things feel like they're gone. We didn't feel that, but you will see some random tourists just doing spiritual things sometimes.
Some spiritual looking poses in random places occasionally. It's not like it's not like there's groups of people like all like hippies walking around.
But that's only tourists that I saw, none of the like local experience of that.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And there are places that like facilitate that, like Holistica and stuff is very like forward towards that.
Yeah.
But it just seems like everybody that's participating in that is a tourist. As you're walking down the streets, you're not gonna hear like any Latino music or music at all.
Tulum, yeah, Tulum vibes. Are you still going?
I was expecting to hear like mariachi music playing or something, or
Well,
that's
salsa
one
nights.
day. That's one day out of the week. But
Not a lot of music anywhere.
there's a lot of places that are completely quiet.
Yeah, especially in town, which is weird because you would expect a lot of music, and here a lot of places just quiet. Very, very quiet. You do have music if you go, of course, in the hotel zone. That's totally different experience.
But that's like 3 places.
Yeah.
3 of the day clubs that'll have music. And then the rest of it is quiet. Not even like ambient music that they have like a little speaker of like do-do-ba-do-do-do-do-do-do.
If I'm thinking about it right now, you have restaurants if you go at night. Some have like little parties. There's a lot of spots that are just either empty or quiet or both. Like there's just not a lot of music around, which was a surprise.
It sounds weird saying this now, but when you're actually there, it kind of feels weird to just go to a bar where everybody's hanging out and there's no type of musical atmosphere.
Yeah.
Maybe it's weird because it's just me and that's something I notice a lot, but I think music adds an atmosphere.
Yeah,
and,
it does a lot. Yeah.
And when it's not there, it's like, why is it so silent?
And the last thing pretty much I'm gonna say about the culture, listen, come on,
Oh, it's about to get real.
sit down. A lot of people keep on repeating that Tulum is like Ibiza of Mexico. Whoever said that Tulum is Ibiza of Mexico literally deserves jail time and ticket to Ibiza because... Where? Where? Because I don't know where. Yes, you can go party, and of course people come here 2, 3, 5 days and you go get lit. There's two big clubs that are like Papaya Playa and Vagaloom, and that's where you're gonna go and like party. But other things are just little bars or little tiny clubs. There's few places that play music, few close at 11 p.m., few closes at 1, and that's it. It's not Ibiza. Ibiza is non-stop party all the time, wherever you go, and just it feels like a never-ending party. Don't get me wrong, you can party here. You can party anywhere. I can party in like Iowa, you know, if I go to the right bar.
Iowa people like, hey!
Sorry, Iowa people, but no, like literally I can party anywhere, and I'm not saying there is no good parties here, because when we went out, we had fun, but it's far from Ibiza, so please stop saying this because it's stuck with me so much, and every time I go to like Hotel Zone, it just is in my brain that it's like Ibiza of Mexico.
And you expected Ibiza parties, but there was nothing.
Oh my gosh, I'm shivering in my covers.
I'm like, no, it's not. It's not. When you go to the club.
Oh, wait, I want to
Okay.
I want to spoil it. I'm going to spoil it for you. I know you've seen the posts. And like, everybody's like, with the sparklers. This is the best time ever. Yeah, weren't you at Tulum, bitches? And you think that that's the way it is. Here's how it actually is. You're chilling at the restaurant. Some music is playing and stuff. And then you're just sitting there like, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's bored because it's a
You're
restaurant.
Grabbing a drink,
Yeah.
you're just talking.
And then out of nowhere, everybody, like all the staff is prepared for this one moment where they're like, it's sparkler time. And then everyone's like, and they hand everybody a sparkler, every single person a sparkler at the same time.
Yeah.
It has to be at the same time because when you look around and you see all these sparklers
And
going
everyone's
up,
with their
everyone's
phone.
like, oh my gosh, this is dope. And then they start record, they hit the record button. And then 30 seconds later, it fizzles out.
Yeah.
It's 11:20 and
The music
looks like the party's over.
But that's seriously how it is. Like,
The lights go out 30 seconds later.
I can't even make this up.
And all that you saw in the post was everybody having a great time. And then people are like stepping up on the tables.
Yeah.
Like trying to they're having a dance party and stuff. That only happens for those 30 seconds. It wasn't a whole night of ridiculousness.
Trust me, you can have great time here. You can get lit. You can, as I said, get lit in Iowa, in Idaho, wherever you go. If you have like a good,
I'm from Iowa.
wherever you go and you have a good group of people, you can have awesome party. Tulum has some great places and great spots for you to party. It really does, but it's not Ibiza of anything.
So here are our final thoughts.
So we had a lot to say, as you can tell, it's dark outside already. But don't get me wrong and don't get us wrong, there is a lot of beautiful places to see here and around Tulum. We're not telling you not to come here, we are simply letting you know a lot of things that you really should know.
Regardless of what we say versus what you or others might think, this is our experience and like our time here.
Yeah.
You know, it's unique to everybody. I've heard people that come here for a weekend and they love it so much that they ended up living here. Dropped their whole lives and moved to Tulum. That's happened and people are still doing that.
Yeah, there's people who absolutely love it here. There is people who absolutely hate it here. I wouldn't say I absolutely hate it. I definitely don't love it. I will say till some things get a little better, we probably won't be coming back. All is about money and nobody really cares if you have a good or bad experience.
Every aspect of Tulum is outclassed by another place in the world. If you're like me and no matter what anybody says, you still want to see it for yourself, you know? Yeah. And you are coming here. These are going to be the best things that you should do.
The Azulik in the jungle, magical. Yeah. Absolutely worth the money, beautiful. Azulik on the beach, overpriced, overhyped, that's my opinion. You can fight me. I would skip it if you still have to see it. There is a little hack. If you go to both locations on the same day, then you can get one location 50% off, which made us feel a little better for sure.
The other thing that you have to do, cannot skip on is Explore Park.
Oh my god, that was the most fun I had in a water park, probably ever.
And I wouldn't miss out on some of the cenotes. There's some really, really cool ones that you should absolutely see if you're in this part of the world.
If you want to come to Tulum and if you want to take our advice, I would say 2 to 3 days tops and keep on moving.
Stay at Hotel Zone.
Yeah.
Do Hotel Zone. If you have the money to spend on Hotel Zone, do it because it's gonna cut back on so much hassle that you just don't need to cram into 2 or 3 days.
And if you want to come here on a budget, that's gonna be really tough.
So there we go, we covered pretty much everything. Since we were here for 3 whole months, we were able to find as much fun as we could. We put that in a video right there. And if you want to hear about some of the awesomest cenotes and the ones that you have to go to, we made a video of it right there. If you find yourself in Tulum, make sure you check those out and we'll see you somewhere else in the world.
Bye!
Bye!